I was listening earlier to the prison officer talking, and it kind of resonated with me. I'm a public sector worker. I'm actually a police officer, and as of this morning, I had to go into self-isolation because I've had what I thought was a cold, and it's the symptoms have got quite, I wouldn't say severe, but I've been coughing quite badly throughout the night, and so I had no choice but to phone up work.
Have you got a temperature,
today.
do you know?
I haven't got a temperature, although I'm feeling very cold.
Yes. You don't sound well, but then, of course, I don't know what you sound like the rest of the time.
No, this is it. I've got symptoms of what you'd say is ordinarily just a cold, very blocked up. I have been coughing quite a lot.
Sure.
But it's ordinarily something that I wouldn't take time off work for, especially not 2 weeks. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that without public sector workers being tested for something like this, we are automatically told that you have to go into a period of isolation just like everyone else. But what if this is just a cold? I've then got just as much chance of getting coronavirus 3 months down the line as everyone else, and then having to take more time off. And in a time where we're trying to desperately keep, our emergency services going. I mean, we've been given the advice just like everyone else, but we've also been told that, you are an emergency service. It's imperative that we keep the service going as much as we can. It's really difficult. I know the NHS is under such strain at the moment, but if there was a way that we could be tested to see whether or not we haven't got it, then we would be able to go back to work and fulfil our duties. I mean, I, for one, am feeling incredibly guilty that I'm not at work today.
But why are you feeling guilty, Susan?
Because at a time of crisis, you should be out there. I'm a frontline police officer. That's what I joined up to do.
You're poorly. You'd be no use to anybody in this state. Feel bad, but don't feel guilty. There's no guilt. You do more on a daily shift than most of us do in our lifetimes to protect the public. Give yourself a break.
It's easier said than done.
I know it is.
And I know, my colleagues are out there this morning, and it's really difficult. I feel, I do feel incredibly guilty. And
I wish you wouldn't. I really do. I know it's easier said than done, but I wish you wouldn't feel guilty.
I suppose what I'm trying to sort of say is, if there was some way that we could determine whether or not we are infectious with COVID or not so, then we would be able to keep the force, because I'm not going to be the only one. I don't know. But
again, this is another area that I think last week I'd have been reluctant to weigh in fully on stuff. But yes, I mean, the World Health Organization yesterday, test, because the last thing we need is people like you withdrawing yourself from frontline service because you think you might be infectious, but we could know for sure whether you were or not, and that means everybody would need to be tested. And I don't know what the reasons are for not doing it, whether or not the reasons are rational, whether they're because of the finite nature of the tests, but it doesn't make sense.
If I'm completely honest with myself and you, James,
Go on.
I probably should have... I started feeling a little bit coldy a few days ago, because colds generally take a few days, don't they, to come out? And it's only now, I suppose, I didn't want to sort of go off of work, because ordinarily I wouldn't. It has to take a lot for me to take time off of work. And I was, this morning, I felt particularly unwell, and I probably would have taken today off anyway, but certainly not 2 weeks, because even the flu, you don't expect it to last.
No, but you didn't. You've been following the advice, and you're just a very good example of how the advice has been lagging behind the lived experience. But would you promise me to try to be a bit kinder to yourself? Because I really mean this. It's not often I'm urging compassion upon the boys and girls in blue, but I would actually generally urge it, but I don't need to normally. But I hate the idea that you're beating yourself up about not being out there. We want you fit and dander, Sue. You're no use to us poorly, Susan. I
know. But then what happens if this is just a cold or, a touch of the flu?
Yeah, but again, that's not your fault. That's not your fault. That's not your fault. You are doing the right thing, and you need to be kind to yourself about that. You really do.
Yeah, I just wish there was a way that we could check to see what we have at the moment, because I'd be quite happy to soldier on if it was just a cold or, I suppose it's very, very difficult to know what to say, because
I know it is, but I don't know why that, of everything you've said to us, in which there's much cause for concern and for gratitude for the job that you do every day with your colleagues, but just the idea of you feeling guilty about not being out there doing more, it's not your fault you can't get the test that you want, all right?